Hello and welcome back to this channel. My name's Emily and I love to talk about books. Today I'm going to talk about the age-old question, how do you read more and how in the world do you have time to read so much? This question, while on the surface is a question of like when to fit in reading, there's like more of a psychological aspect to your relationship with hobbies and rest and enjoyment. And before I start, I do want to disclaim that I do have a 9-to-5 job and I read for pleasure and make videos about it. And I consider myself someone who is busy and doesn't have a lot of time, but it's all relative. And I know that there are people out there doing what I'm doing that also have kids. So just know that like everything is kind of on a spectrum and we all have the same 24 hours in a day, but I have more time than someone with kids or a significant other. And I use that to my advantage because that's just the phase of my life that I'm in right now, but that's where this video is gonna come from. So if you're like in the same kind of boat as me and you have a job and you're kind of struggling to transition into holding space and time for your hobbies, we have things to chat about. But regardless of how much free time that you have, I think that there are still psychological aspects of making time for your hobbies that are important to address. I think that the root of the problem of people feeling like they don't have enough time to read lies in America's relationship with rest and like hustle culture and being on the continuous journey of self-improvement and development of personal brand and all the things that are honestly kind of dystopian when you take a step back. And I think that kind of the mindset around work, career, leisure that we have in America can sometimes make it difficult to prioritize hobbies solely for enjoyment instead of self-improvement. And reading is something that is so unique because I feel like when you're reading for enjoyment, you're kind of passively improving yourself instead of actively. And this is something that I could sit on a soapbox and talk about forever. So I'm just gonna skip it for now and talk about how to read more. And I feel like it really begins with redefining rest and reading and working on your relationship with rest and prioritizing yourself and understanding that while it is important to be productive and get the things done that you need to get done, it's also really important to balance your nervous system and take time for yourself, because without doing that, you're pouring from an empty cup and that just never works out. And I think that knowing how important it is to unwind and relax your brain and how good reading is for that type of brain relaxation in just a way that scrolling on your phone I feel like can never be, and being on a screen can never be. It doesn't have to be like a means of active learning, but it does reset your brain and allow you to like reset and come at life from a place of calm and a place of balance. I hope that makes sense. A note I think about like the 9-to-5 and having to fit reading in is that it makes it feel like more of a treat, and I really lean into that. I think that if I read and did YouTube for a full-time job, I would literally love it because it would be just like me doing my hobby all the time. But because it's not my full-time job and because I don't make money from it, it really is something that is just such a treat, and that I literally am like, okay, I'm gonna go through this long day, but I'm gonna have 25 minutes at the end of it before I go to sleep to read. And thinking about it as something that I'm grateful to have the time to do is something that has helped me do it more and look forward to reading. Another thing that is so important to making you look forward to reading is reading a book that you like. And that seems obvious, but often I feel we start to should ourselves and say, oh, I should read this, and I should read classics, and I should get more educated, and I should read self-improvement books. But really at the end of the day, you should enjoy your hobbies, and that's the only should, and you should read books that you enjoy. And whether that is classics or young adult or children's chapter books, like picking something that you look forward to reading is the only way that you're gonna build that habit. And if you have not really picked up a book and felt compelled to read it at the end of the day every day, I would encourage you to look at the genres of TV and movies that you enjoy or games and find something to read that is in that genre, because, you know, that's what you like. And also just experiment. If you don't have a library card and you're new to reading, I feel like that's just such a great place to start, because then you don't have to spend so much money, because reading when you're buying books can be such an expensive hobby. And I love that part of it, but when you're starting out and unsure of what you like, I think that it's just better to like test out the waters and try different things, and doing that with a library card means that it's free to you. So I would definitely start there. I love the idea of habit stacking also. So when I have like a long walk with my dog or a car trip or am folding clothes, like having an audiobook to listen to at those times really helps me get more reading in. I personally do consider audiobooks reading. I know not everyone does, but I do. I would prefer to read a physical book, but it also is just nice to be listening to a book while I'm doing other things. So I feel like that's just a great way to get a few more books in every year. I think with habit stacking, it's important to remind myself that being consistent is more important than quantity. So reading here and there adds up really, really quickly. And when you give yourself lots of little times to sit down and read, some of those inevitably will turn into longer reading sessions, and the small ones add up over time. So really just like having my book with me all the time and creating little like 15 to 20 minute pockets of the day when I can to read really helps propel me forward. And it helps me like get into like keeping up the momentum is important, because if I'm reading every day, I'm like remembering what's happening in the book. Whereas if I read every few days, it can be harder for me to get into it because I'll kind of forget what's happening. And then I have to go through that like, okay, wait, where was I? Versus always being reading makes me remember it and just keeps the momentum, like the ball rolling. You know, an object in motion stays in motion, or whatever they say. If you've read for a long time, if you've read for a short time, if you've read at all, you've probably experienced a reading slump or a lack of motivation surrounding picking up a book, which is totally normal. And I feel like removing the guilt from that and instead just looking at it as an opportunity to ease yourself back in is so much easier. So something that I do when I feel myself kind of getting into a rut is turning to like easier to read books so that I can get through something really fast. Because when I was young, I used to love to read and would just like tear through books, like read a book in one day. And recently I went back and read a few books that were my favorites when I was younger, and they're just easier to read and they're shorter and you can get through them in a day, and there's nothing as motivating as reading an old favorite, at least for me, just in one sitting. That gets me back excited about why I love reading. Like kind of just the idea of going back to your roots is super, super effective to me for staying in love with reading. I reread, I was sick and I was reading literally all day, and I was like, okay, I'm getting bored of this. I need to do something fast paced. So I read A Wrinkle in Time, The Tale of Emily Winsnap, and The Click, which were all books that I liked when I was younger. And each of them took me about a day, and I was like, I just read 3 books. That was amazing. Now I remember why I love reading and can just go from there feeling motivated and ready, you know? TLDR for that whole tangent that I just went on, you can pick an easy book. You don't have to read something that's like difficult to read or prestigious. Like just read something that you like and calm your nervous system, and know that that is enough, and is also a great place to start out and build that momentum that will keep you moving forward when you decide that you feel ready to read a longer book. In conclusion, remember that your hobbies should be fun and you should love them. And reading is a really fun hobby, and it's really special to escape into another world. So remember why you fell in love with reading and lean into that. And you are more than a personal brand. We are people, not commodities, and it's important to remember that, especially living in America. All you have control over is you and your nervous system and the way that you feel. And unplugging is a great way to really take the reins and control the way that you feel, and therefore the way that you move in the world and the impact that you have on other people. And maybe it's not that deep, but sometimes it is. And I just want these to be your reminders and kind of a deeper dive into how to read more and how to think about your hobby of reading and how to really enjoy it instead of adding another chore into your life that already has so many chores, I'm sure. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I recorded this video and it was 25 minutes, and this is my second take and it's 15 minutes. And I just was like starting to edit the first video and I was like, oh my God, I'm literally just rambling and rambling and rambling on. So if that's something you'd be interested in, let me know, because this is something that I could ramble about forever. I love to have conversations with my reader friends and we can just talk in circles and just like talk about how much we love reading over and over. But thank you for watching. Tell me what you liked, tell me what you didn't like, tell me what you want to see more of. I love you so much. My camera's about to die, so bye.